What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be showing you the Evil Energy catch can and how to install it onto a 2007 Chevy Impala. This is also the other years of Chevy Impala that you can install this on. The engine that I'm putting this on is a 3.9, but it should be about the same as a 3.5. And my biggest question for this kit is, like, an oil catch can is pretty simple the way it works. It just, so you have this guy right here, and it's really cool the way these work. So usually in your car, I'm going to show you, but there's lines coming off of your valve covers, and those tubes go into the intake. It recirculates the vent pressure from the engine, and there's oil that can go through those lines. So the oil is going back into your intake, and it's gumming up all the stuff that goes back into the engine. So this prevents the oil from going back into the engine, and it has a vent so that the crankcase pressure goes out into the atmosphere rather than back into the car. So this is good for your car. Now the cool thing about this kit is that it has a little baffle here so that no oil comes out of your vent when it's running. And we are going to quickly install this together so we have less things to carry with us. So this is what your kit's going to look like if you order the kit. Now I just want to let you know before we get ahead into this that there is going to be a link in the description with a code that you can use to get a discount on this kit that I'm using, so you can install it on your own car. The filter right on top of this, right on top of it. And you can just tighten this down whenever you're ready. And then inside the kit, you have a bunch of different elbows. There's a 90, a 45, straight one, another straight one, and we got another 90 and another 45, and a whole lot of tubing. And then with it comes, some threading, some thread tape, Evil Energy sticker, and the drain plug. So we're gonna put the drain plug in before we continue. The way this drain plug works is it goes at the bottom of your kit, and as you unscrew it, it pushes up a valve, and that's what lets your oil out. So you wanna make sure that this guy is nice and tight before we continue. Now I'm gonna utilize our thread tape that they gave with us. Take your tape. And we're gonna give it a couple wraps. To make sure that the threads are sealed from oil. And just make sure that the thread tape that you put on here doesn't cover like mine did. I'm gonna bring with me outside a couple of these crescent wrenches and a small wrench for what we're doing here, but you can just bring a regular wrench kit out. That also works too. And you're gonna tighten this guy up. We have 2 bolt holes here that we can use to mount this sucker onto the car. So we'll try to look in the car and see where we can do that. I guess the biggest question we have here is actually getting it onto the car. That's the thing that I'm questioning right now, but we're gonna solve that question in this video. Alright, so this is the engine. Yours is gonna look a little different if you haven't done anything to it. You're gonna have a plastic cover on here that taking it off is gonna make everything a lot easier. And I have a cold air intake right here that's very jankily put on. Probably have to make it tighter. But you'll have an air box that's right here. But I believe even with the airbox, I was trying to think of a way to do it so that everybody would have the same setup. Is this kit looks like it would be very easy to install if we put it right about in here. So somewhere right here where it's aligned with the strut mount so that when you close the hood it doesn't hit the top of the vent, and you can still unscrew that part right there so that you can drain it out easily without having to, like, you know, take it completely out of the car. But on the other side of this, like directly on the other side, you have straight flat metal that if I put my hand in here on the other side, you can hear it. So the plan is I'm gonna drill a hole, I'm gonna put a nut on the other side, and we're just gonna screw it down there. I think this is the first step, is actually getting it onto the car, and then the rest of it, we just have to make sure that the hose that we're gonna use fits on these lines here, because on this car there's a line that goes into your boot here, and that comes from the valve cover over here. You just follow that line and it plugs into the valve cover over there. And then on this other one, it's right here in the front. You got this guy and it goes right into the intake. So I guess what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug off the holes here. We're gonna plug this off somewhere, and we're gonna hopefully keep using this, and we're gonna put the new hose on here, and we're gonna put it straight into our vent so that it doesn't go back into the engine. So for the first thing is mark your holes. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna dab it where I want to put my holes at, so we can take this out and drill the holes. Alright, the place where I'm putting mine is right here. You can see the two holes, and I'm just gonna drill the first hole, or actually I'll probably drill both holes. But what I did here is I took this little part off. You can just, you know, kind of wiggle it off of this bolt right here, and it gives us more room to drill these holes. Hopefully I can fit the drill in there. If not, then we're probably gonna have to move this intake, and you're most likely gonna have to remove your intake as well. It's pretty easy, it's pretty simple. You just disconnect this and the box comes out with some clips. Disconnects from this guy right here. So drill those holes, and start with a little bit and go up in size until it's about the size of this hole right here. And I came up with an idea. I might actually have screws that are self-tappers that'll fit that, like pretty thick ones. We'll see. Alright, so I loosened mine off. I'm gonna move it out of the way a little bit, let it dangle there, so we can drill these holes, because I can't exactly fit the drill in there. I got the one on the left, but the one on the right just kept slipping, so gotta move it off a little bit like that. Alright, so I think I found some that'll work. This is the ones I'm using, 1/4 by 3/4 inch. So they're 3 and a quarter long, and they're 1/4 of an inch in diameter. So that's the bolt right there. So it goes in. I think it will thread in, and it also fits through this hole, which is perfect. So I believe this is the perfect size, and I don't think it's gonna mess with the wheel on the other side. We'll check that. But yeah, I think that's the plan right now. I'm gonna try to screw this down, and the only thing I can see that's gonna be a slight issue is might have to bend these tabs a little bit, but that's no big deal. Look at the welds on this thing. It's not gonna be a big deal at all. Alright, the next step is I'm gonna start with the front because it's easier, and we'll be able to tell if this will actually work. You want to press in this button here, and should be able to take this hose off. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna see if I'm gonna take a pretty good risk here, and I'm gonna see if I can fit the tubing that we have onto this. Like if say we cut this line here and we try to fit the tubing over this, will it fit? That's my biggest question. And we'll see what happens. We might have to get more tubing, but if not, that would be amazing. Alright, there's no going back after I do this. but oh, that feels so wrong. Cut it maybe with these guys instead. The crimps. Ooh, that did it. That feels so wrong. So I'm gonna try to take this guy. I'm gonna cut the edges off of it so that it's a bigger hole. Cut it a little closer to the plastic part, and we're gonna try to keep this line on and put the hose over it. But let's just first see if I made a mistake or not. Well, alright, so I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna see if I have any other tubing that's gonna work with this, because the tubing here, it just seems a little bit too loose. Like it, even with the thing on it, I don't think that's gonna work. So what I am gonna do is we're gonna have to cut this off anyways. So I'm going to cut this and hopefully not cut myself. Give me just a second. I'm gonna cut right across here so that this comes off. All right, here we are. That took a lot more effort than I expected, but this is our piece. Make sure I didn't mess it up at all. Okay, and we can throw this part out. So my idea is if we can get this piece to fit on, looks like we can, will it fit in here? And it looks like it fits like actually perfectly. So if we put a little clamp on that, it'll probably be fine. So that's my idea, is to put this hose on here, cut it right at the end, and we're gonna put a clamp on here. And I accidentally cut myself, so be very careful and wear gloves when you're slicing this guy off, because it was a little difficult. So I think this is what we're gonna do. And I believe this is correct hose. You wanna make sure you get PCV hose. I had this lying around. I was lucky enough to have this, but if you don't have this, you're gonna have to make sure it's oil grade. I guess what I'll do is I'll put it on first. All right, that's probably good enough. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this, and we're gonna put the new hose on top of this so it's a nice tight fit. This is the hose. That's the number. So yeah, get this hose because it works perfectly. It goes straight on there. It's a nice tight fit. You wouldn't even need a clamp for that right now. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this outside, we're gonna cut it, and we're gonna try to put that hose on top of it with a hose clamp. And you're probably also gonna have to get hose clamps because the fittings that come with this kit are supposed to fit onto performance cars and stuff. All right, there's an assortment of hose clamps that you can get from Harbor Freight. Just recommend getting these because you never know when you're gonna need them, obviously. All right, so exactly like I said, we have our hose here. What I'm gonna do is, actually I'm probably gonna have to use these cutters. These are, I forget what they're called. They're it's like shear cutters. Make sure we cut it. Oop. Well, I'm glad that thing is very durable. What did I expect was gonna happen? Cut it very close to this hole here so it's not gonna capsize on the inside, you know what I'm saying? That's the end right there. That's what it's gotta look like. Put it right on top of this one. I'm gonna make sure it's flush, just like this. That looks good. I'm not even gonna bother trying to get this braiding back because it's got a bunch of metal parts and I've already cut myself, so it's all right. So now we have this is going from the valve cover. This is perfect. So before we put this in and break this off, because this hose is pretty heavy, I'm gonna try to get it to the other side of. Now we have three choices: a 45, a 90, or a straight. That should work. We're gonna use a 45. And the way that this works is you unscrew it all the way. And you don't have to use thread locker for this because the way that this thing works is you put the hose on here with this on the end of the hose, and when you clamp this down, this expands and it compresses the hose against the side of this part so that it seals. So this is a great sealing process, and you just want to drive it all the way in with this hose. That's how it's designed. Yeah. So we just got to get this guy around all of this stuff. Slowly shove it all in. Alright, so the way that this clamp works is there's no clamp on the outside, because when you screw this in, it simultaneously pushes this up against this side. So it'll seal against this side and on the inside. So you take this, it goes straight into this hole. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take some oil from my engine. Hopefully there's a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna take a little bit of this oil and I'm gonna put it on the end of this so that it goes in a little easier. And you just go straight into that hole right there. And while you're doing this, try to pull this part towards the hose so that it doesn't separate. And as long as you don't have any movement, should be good. Take this guy, and I'm gonna gently keep going with it. At this point, it should be clamped enough so that it won't come out, but you want to grab another wrench. So I'm trying to do this while it's still in frame. You're gonna grab this guy, and continue to torque this down with the other one. Alright, now those two are tight. This thing's not going anywhere. So I'm gonna screw this part onto our guy here. And this is just a friction seal, so as you tighten this on, it will seal against the side. It's a tapered end. You can move this around still without moving that, so that's good. So now all you gotta do is cut it to the right length, and I'm gonna move this whole thing down. This might actually be better. And I do have a slight idea. We might be able to put the hose through this hole so that it goes straight into here. I'm not sure if that's gonna work, but the amount of hose we're gonna need is about right here. So I'm just gonna cut this. Hopefully it cuts nicely. It did cut very nicely. That's good. Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm gonna put a hose clamp on this, on the end of this. This one should work. I think it works. I think it works. That's actually really cool. Alright, that should be good. Alright, so I'm just gonna make sure those connections are all tight when we're done. and the first side is done. That's how I have it set up. So the other side is right here, and you just follow this line to this guy right here, and I'm pretty sure it just pops out. So I'm gonna try to just wiggle it out. Maybe it turns, probably turns. So we're gonna take this, do that, give it that a little wiggle. So I'm thinking instead of removing it, I feel like it should be removable, but since I can't remove it and I feel like I'm gonna break something if I keep going, I am instead going to do it on the car. So I'm gonna cut this tube off, and we're just gonna do the same thing that we did with the other one. Just take this tube, put it on top, and then we'll put the new tube on it, and we'll be able to route it towards the bottom part. I may even end up switching these two, putting this one on the bottom and that one on the top, because I wasn't thinking this one was going to be below this intake, but now it is. So we'll probably end up changing that over so it's a little bit easier. All right, I believe we can take this off now. The more useful hand. And here's our little plastic piece that's heat treated on, looks like. So this is your PCV part right here. Make sure no dirt went in there. And the fact that I couldn't take this off is a little worrying, because I'm planning on doing this rear valve cover soon, but it is what it is. Where did I just put that? Do I not? You dumbass. Where did I put it? It's in my hand. It's in my hand. You stupid. So looks like we're gonna need, I guess I'll put it on first. So I'm gonna guesstimate where our thing is. Just make sure you don't cut any wires when you do this. Just cut that off quick. Let's see, what would be the best fitting to put on here? I believe another 45 would be best. Move this top one to the bottom side. It's a mistake we made, but it's okay. So we're gonna take this, and I'm gonna move it to the other side. Ooh, it's going on sideways. That's not good. Why is it going on sideways? I wonder if I can fix the threads. So this is one issue that we ran into, is when you're torquing these down, be very careful, because this can happen to you. We messed up the first two threads of this. So I'm going to try to fix those threads, because this should not happen to you. When you're installing it, just be careful when you're threading it on. And when I fix this, I'll get back to you guys and we'll finish the installation. Alright, I think I'm very, very lucky. I screwed one of the straight ones on, and I went really slow, and I tried to fix the threads, and after a couple tries I ended up getting it to work. I went to put this one back on, this 45 at the bottom, and it was really tough to get on, but after deciding to keep going to see what happens, it actually, I think it went through the correct threads, and now it's tightening down. So we are never loosening this one again. But just, that is something to keep in mind. This is something that happened to me on my installation, so it's definitely something that can happen to you. Just be very careful when you're tightening these down. Now we have to use this 45. I'm gonna do this 45 here, and we're gonna put one side of the tubing on that. So same thing as before. Gonna take this tubing, it's gonna go right in here, right? Just like that. Alright, let's try this side. Ooh. Just try to fit all the wire in there so you don't have to so you don't mess up the wire. I'm gonna push this all the way in so that that tube comes up over those threads that you see in there. Alright, about this long. Should be fine. Alright. Gonna try that. We'll see. Gotta put a hose clamp on it quick. And up here until we're ready. Try to feel for it. Alright, we got that on there. Just have to tighten the hose clamp down. But this seems good. Seems pretty good. I like how this is set up. You can still get your transmission dipstick. You can, it's out of the way of everything. Make sure our cold air intake fits back on, and we'll be good to go. Hose clamp down. All right, this guy's good. Now, just have to plug these holes right here, the ones that we took out. So one right here and one right here. Right, so you're like, what do I do about these open holes? Took that one out, and this one is gaping hole. Like, you can't have extra air going in when this can't account for it. So what do? I did this, used the tube that we already used for everything else, took the plastic pieces off again just like we did on the other ones, and put a bolt in it. You're gonna make sure the bolt actually screws into it and gets tighter as it goes in, and should end up like this. I could have taken the washer off of it, but you know, maybe it's a little more fun that way. So all you got to do now is just put your ding back in, and we'll just leave that like that. It's not gonna draw in air anymore. And then we got this guy. This one you just pop on, just like that. And we'll put it against the brake reservoir right there, so it doesn't really vibrate that much. So yeah, you block off those two holes, and yep, that's how you do it. Take the pressure from the crankcase, it goes in here, vents out the top, and you have the oil drain in, and then you no longer have oil going inside here or oil going inside here. It's perfect. All right, now let's start her up. See how many codes we get. Turn the AC off so we're good. Oh yeah.